Valentina, a 20-year-old Colombian woman, lost her life after being struck by an electric shock during a thunderstorm. But what she experienced next was no simple dream. There was no tunnel or comforting light. Jesus revealed to her 7 disturbing events that will shake the planet. One of them has a clear date, December 25th, 2025. It's not a threat, it's a warning. Subscribe to the channel, write your country in the comments, and watch the video until the end. What Valentina witnessed may already be underway. My name is Valentina Morales. I'm 20 years old, and I live in Bogotá. I was never one to believe in miracles. I was an ordinary girl, a biology student, fascinated by extreme climates and tropical storms. For me, meteorology wasn't just a science. It was an obsession. I grew up in a practicing Catholic family, but I always kept a certain distance from religion. I respected other people's faith, of course, but I didn't believe in heaven, miracles, or the chosen few. My only faith was logic, data, and weather patterns. Since I was a child, I felt dizzy every time there were storms. Once, I was even hospitalized for 3 days due to a panic attack during a thunderstorm, but over time, that fear transformed into curiosity. It became the center of my studies. However, a week before my death, everything began to change. Every night I had nightmares, absurd but vivid scenes, empty schools with motionless children, their eyes open but voiceless, rain that rose instead of falling, a black sun frozen in the sky, and an inverted sky as if a broken mirror had replaced it. I woke up drenched in sweat, my heart racing, paralyzed. The most disturbing thing was that those images didn't disappear during the day. I felt like the world was slowly peeling away like wet paper badly stuck to a wall. I started writing down in a notebook what I felt. On June 18th, I wrote down something is coming. I don't know what it is, but it's not human. I didn't understand why, but every time someone mentioned December 25th, I got chills. A teacher mentioned it when talking about the final exam, and I did die. My best friend suggested taking a trip for Christmas, and I felt a strange pressure in my chest. I had no logical explanation, but that date haunted me. On Wednesday, June 25th, the day of the accident, the atmosphere was dense. The air had a strange electrical charge, like just before a storm. I had just left campus after a physics class. A storm was brewing over Bogotá. The clouds were almost violet. I was soaked. The wind was blowing hard, lightning was striking, and the sky looked like something out of an apocalyptic movie. But I wasn't afraid. To cut across, I decided to take an outdoor metal staircase at the back of the campus. There was a rusty iron railing on one side. As I climbed, my hand brushed against it, and then I didn't feel anything at first, just a kind of jolt, like a lightning bolt running down my spine, and then everything stopped. My vision went white, then black. My heart stopped. I learned later that my body convulsed. My head hit the wet ground. I was clinically dead for 3 minutes and 36 seconds, but it wasn't like sleep. It wasn't a void or a pause. It was a transition, a crossing. The world shut down and something else switched on. I didn't feel pain, just that shocking, as if something were emptying me from within. Then came a strange silence. It wasn't peace. It was a distant, icy silence, as if the universe had completely frozen. I felt myself floating slowly backward through some kind of invisible glass tunnel. All around, a deep sound could be heard, like a heartbeat. Perhaps the heart of the world, but its rhythm wasn't human. It no longer had any form. My body was a kind of warm, luminous fog. sounds, and memories could pass through it. I felt I was passing through a kind of dome made only of sounds, notes suspended like bells stopped in midair, and each note held a memory, not mine. Memories forgotten by humanity, untold wars, broken promises, whispered prayers that were lost in the noise of the world. And then everything changed. Before me appeared a landscape impossible to describe. It looked like a desert, but white, with a smooth ground, without sand, like opaque glass, absolute silence. And in that desert, antique clocks floated in the air. Hundreds, perhaps thousands, all stopped, each marking a different hour. But 7 exact hours shone brighter than the others. 7 frozen moments, without me yet being able to understand what they meant. That place, without anyone saying it out loud, was known as the Sanctuary of Silent Clocks. Creatures crossed space, walking backwards, as if time had forgotten how to move forward. They were made of golden dust. Their chants weren't words, but inverted notes, absorbed sounds that made the ground vibrate with every step. A staircase appeared in front of me, but it wasn't solid. It flowed as if made of thick water, yet my feet could climb it without falling. It led me to an immense room, like an amphitheater suspended in the sky. Everything was floating in the void, and in the center were screens, many hanging like invisible mirrors. On these screens, there were only blank pages, and suddenly they began to burn without sound, without heat, an invisible fire that devoured invisible letters. Every word, every stroke disappeared without a trace. In the middle of that room was Jesus, but he wasn't the Jesus shown in paintings or temples. He was sitting, his eyes closed, his body covered in shining numbers, as if a living code were moving under his skin. With each heartbeat, the numbers changed, as if telling an ancient story my mind still couldn't decipher. His face changed constantly, child, old man, king, martyr, and back again, never the same for more than a few seconds. He didn't speak with his mouth. He didn't make a sound. But I felt a vibration inside me, a dull drum in my chest, and I understood it was him. He spoke, resonating inside my rib cage. He told me, without saying it, "You are going to see what the world refuses to read, not to fear, but to wake up." Then a crystal sphere appeared before us. It opened slowly, and 7 visions emerged from within. One by one, they floated before me, real and unreal at the same time. 1 war, 2 continents. I couldn't identify which ones, but I saw 2 leaders plunging their hands into a dark liquid that turned into blood. They smiled. Then they raised their arms, and the world began to shake. A famine. Africa and Asia seemed to merge into a single empty field. Children bent down to pick what they thought were fruits, but they were only mirages. Their hands pierced the air. A technological revolution. Children sat in front of tablets, but the screens didn't illuminate their faces. They turned them off. The words they read lulled them. Knowledge became a sedative, a solar storm. From space, the earth seemed stained with shadows, entire regions without electricity. Lamp posts floated like ghosts, rootless, without soil. False prophets, famous influencers, their faces distorted by filters. They spoke with enthusiasm. Everything seemed perfect, but their words were golden chains. Millions followed him. They laughed while the world fell silent. A global law, a room without walls, president signing a document. But the paper became a mirror, and the mirror shattered. No one said anything. a wave of awakening. Young people everywhere stood up as if responding to a voice I couldn't hear, but they did understand. On their foreheads appeared strange languages burning like flames, gentle, painless. And then I saw Donald Trump. He was alone in a room filled with broken screens everywhere, but none of them worked. He looked at a globe spinning upside down. They said nothing, seemingly waiting. I felt Jesus rise. He stretched out his arms, and inside my chest, that vibration returned. The hourglass has turned over, but the granats don't listen. Then I screamed with all my might. And on December 25th, what will happen on that day? Jesus looked at me. His eyes were no longer eyes. They were windows open to heaven. He raised a hand, and in the air, in letters of light, a message appeared. That day the veil will fall. What they call Christmas will change owners. Everything collapsed. The ground, the sky, time. I fell not toward the earth, but toward the memory of my own body. Before I even opened my eyes, my voice returned. A scream, and everything closed again. When I woke up, the first thing I heard was my own scream. It came from my mouth, but it didn't belong to me. It was as if my body rejected the silence of the place where I had been. The doctors spoke of trauma, a side effect of the electric shock, but they had no idea what my eyes had seen. I couldn't speak, not yet. Then I began to write, but not in sentences, always the same number, the number 7. I scribbled it on everything. Sheets, fogged up windows. Even on my own arm, my hands moved on their own, as if tracing a warning, a sign. The visions didn't stop, they just changed. They became closer. Even though I was awake, I kept seeing things, quick, fragmented images, a burning document, like the one I saw in the room without walls, flashes of sunlight that extinguished entire cities. Children with their eyes open, but their souls asleep. I walked through my neighborhood, but I still felt like I was between two worlds. The day my family talked about preparing for Christmas, I literally screamed. I said, "That day the scenery will change, but the script will remain the same." I couldn't explain why. It was as if those phrases were already written inside me, as if they didn't come from my mind, but from something deeper. I began to shut down, not out of fear, but because I felt like the world kept spinning without seeing what I had seen, and that time, wasn't going to wait. One afternoon in a university cafeteria, I drew what I saw inside the glass sphere. The war with blood-stained hands, the children gathering empty hopes, the blurred faces of false leaders, the law shattering like a mirror, and that wave, that silent awakening of young people. Someone saw my drawings and told me, "You should share that, show it to the world." So I created an account, not with my real name, but with a pseudonym, The Witness of the Shadow. I didn't want to show my face, only my hands, my strokes, my words. I made short videos. Each one showed one of the scenes I saw with Jesus. The famine represented as black drops, the technological revolution as a sleepy snake, the solar storm as a leafless tree consumed from within. I spoke little, just one sentence in each video. This isn't meant to scare. It's meant not to be forgotten. And people started to react. Some called me crazy. Others said, "I feel it too." One video exploded, the one I titled The 7 Events I Saw with Jesus. In just 2 days, it surpassed 1 million views. I felt scared, but also relieved. Finally, someone was listening. A local radio station told me. They contacted me. They wanted to interview me. They said my work was a phenomenon. I accepted, but canceled at the last minute. Not out of fear, but out of certainty. I just wrote to them, "It's not me who should be seen. It's what I saw." My family didn't understand. They tried to make me see reason. Some friends stopped talking to me. Even in college, professors looked at me differently, whispered, smiled. None of it hurt. It only reaffirmed my feelings. I didn't see what I saw to tell a story or become famous. I wasn't given those images to warn presidents or predict dates like a psychic. They gave them to awaken those who remain silent. The young, the invisible, those who feel something is wrong but don't dare to say it. I continued uploading videos secretly, asking for nothing, just for people to think. I've often said, if a dream can warn us, perhaps it's because reality is asleep. I'm no longer afraid of December 25th, but I don't celebrate it either. For me, it's no longer a holiday. It's a door. And I know that door has already begun to open.